I realize that this worksheet is pretty tough, so I'm going to do a video on just some of the problems. Hopefully this will help you as you're going through. So I'm just going to do some selected problems. Let's start with number 2. So for number 2, and I think we might have done this one in class. Here's my angle. I like to start by highlighting my angle. And you'll notice that the vertex of this angle is on the circle, right? So then I like to highlight my ice cream. So there's the angle was my cone, there's my ice cream. If I can figure out how much this is, right? The angle is half of the arc. Well, notice this is a diameter, right? Which means it cuts the circle in half, which means this is 180 degrees. If I've already used up 112, I have 68 degrees left for this arc right here. So now that I know that my angle is on the circle, my angle equals half of my arc. So remember in class I had a phrase, remember it was on, in, out, half plus minus. Okay, so since this was on the circle, the formula is angle equals 1/2 arc. Well, my angle is what we're solving for. The arc, or the ice cream, is 68 degrees. Half of 68 is going to be 34 degrees. Okay, let's see if we can do another one. Let's look at number 4. I like to find my angle first. It's typically the easier part to find. Okay. Here is the ice cream on top that's between those two lines, right? And then if I use my pink, this is the ice cream that's caught inside the cone, right? So since this vertex here, the point of my V, is outside the circle, on, in, out, half plus minus, the key part about this formula is minus. So my angle equals 1/2, they all have 1/2, but this one's arc minus arc. Well, my angle is 40. The outer arc, so from here to here, was 128. The inner portion is what we're solving for. So I'm going to distribute my 1/2. So 1/2 of that is 64 and 1/2 x. I'm going to subtract 64 on both sides. I'm going to multiply by -2 on both sides, and I get 48. Okay. Let's try number 6. There's my angle. Okay. My vertex is on the circle. Here's the ice cream that goes with it. Well, notice all of the circle is 360 degrees. 230 is already used up, so I have 130 left here. Since my angle is on the circle, I use the formula angle equals 1/2 arc. Okay. The angle is what we're solving for. The arc is 130 degrees, so x is going to be 65 degrees. Let's see, why don't we try, let's do number 9. I think we talked about this in class a little bit. So here it says, given circle A, that means A is the center of my circle, solve for y. Well, if this is the center, that means that the measure of this is the same as the measure of this. Okay? Well, since these are vertical angles, we know that these have to be the same. Since this is the center, again, remember this angle has to be the same as this arc. So because this is the center, if these two angles are the same, these two arcs have to be the same. So we're just going to set those equal. I'll set them equal, but I'll let you guys solve on your own. Okay. So let's flip to the back, because I think we did most of the front in class together. Number 11. Well, because we have a quadrilateral inside a circle, we know that the ones that are opposite each other have to add up to 180, right? So 92 plus D, these have to subtract 92 from 180. I'm left with 8. These two have to add up to 180. So if I subtract 102 from 180, I'm left with 78 for C. Okay. Now, we need to find a way to solve for A. And the thing that's hard about the quadrilateral is whenever we pick an angle, I'm going to pick this 102 degree angle here. There's my angle. Here's the ice cream that it cuts off, right? You'll notice that this ice cream has two parts. It has the A part and it has the 140 part, remember? So, since this angle is on the circle, we can say that my angle equals 1/2 of my arc. Well, the angle is 102. the arc is 140 plus A. Okay. Instead of distributing, another option is just to multiply both sides by 2. So I can multiply this side by 2. I can multiply this side by 2. And I get A equals 64. Now, here's another way to think about it. When my angle is on the circle, I double it to get the arc. So if I double it, I get 204. And these two pieces together have to be 204. So if I subtract that away, that's where that 64 came from. Well, now I know that this is 64. Okay. Now I can use these two pieces together with this ice cream cone. Okay. Well, we know that this has a measure of 88 degrees now. So if I double 88, I get 176, which means this outer part has to be 176. So if I subtract this away, I get 112. Let's start number 12 together. Okay. Here's my angle. Notice this is on the circle. So I will double it to get this ice cream. Well, if I double it, I'm going to get 110. Okay. Well, we know that these three have to add up to 180. So if I add these together, I'm going to get 206. That leaves me 154 left over for this piece. Okay. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, so this is 110. So EF was 110. DF was 154. Well, now I can solve for the other angles in a triangle, because look, here's another angle right here that goes with this ice cream. So if I double this, I get this, or if I half this, I get this. Well, half of 154 is 77. And then these three have to add up to 180, which leaves me with 48 degrees left for down here. Let's keep going. Okay, well, I see an angle. Okay. Here's the arc that goes with the angle. Since this is on the circle, the point is on the circle, if I cut this in half, I get X. So half of 184 is 92. Okay. Well, here's my other angle. Here's the ice cream that goes with it. Well, this whole thing has to be 360, so if I subtract this from 360, I'm left with 176 left for this yellow arc. Well, remember, to get from an arc to an inscribed angle, so an angle that's on the circle, we divide by 2. So that's why this angle Y is going to be 88. Let's look at number 14. Find the value of each variable. Well, if you look at this, this is a central angle. It goes straight to the center. And we know that if we have a central angle, that the measure of this arc here has to be exactly the same. Well, if you look, this ice cream cone that goes on the circle uses this same piece of ice cream. So if I cut 108 in half, that will give me the measure of angle D. That's going to be 54 degrees. I also know that I have an angle here that's on the circle. So if I cut this in half, I will get this. Half of 156 is 78. Well, I still have this piece over here to work with, right? Well, first I need to figure out how much arc I have. Well, we know that this plus this has to be 360. And if I subtract this from 360 and this, I'm left with C is 100 and, C is left as 96 degrees. And half of that is going to be angle A. And that's going to be 48 degrees. Okay. Let's keep going. What must the measures of angle B and C be so a circle can be circumscribed around it? Well, remember, we said if we have a quadrilateral that's inside a circle, and this isn't going to be perfect, but something like that, then we know that these two angles are supplementary, and these two angles are supplementary. So if I take this away from 180, I'm left with the angle C, or the measure of angle C, sorry, which is 77. And if I subtract this from 180, I'll get this, which is 102 degrees. Okay. This goes back to what we did 2 classes ago. You'll notice that this arc here is 60 degrees. Okay? If I take this and this away from 360, I'm get this little piece here is 60 degrees. Whenever two arcs are the same measure, the length of the chords that cut them off will also be the same. So x will be 3. Now, one more. It says, given that the measure of angle x is 130, that the length of, segment WZ is congruent to segment YZ, and that the measure of angle Y is 100, find the measures of all of these things. Well, first of all, since we know that these are the same, we know that this has to be the same as this, because if these these chords are the same, they cut off the same amount of arcs. So let's do this. Here's an angle, right, that cuts off all of this. So if I were to double 130, okay, so if I double 130, I get 260 for all of this. But since all of this has to be in two parts that are the same size, each of these are going to be 130. So this is going to be 130, and this is going to be 130. So WZ is going to be 130. Let's do something else. Okay, well, we know now. Let's see if I can figure this out. Oh, remember, opposite angles have to be supplementary. So this is going to be 50. This is going to be 80. Let's see if that gives that a any. So Z is going to be 50. W is going to be 80. We need to figure out how much this is. So WX. It's right here. Okay. Well, since we already know this part, let's use this. There's the angle that gives us that outside. So if I double 100, I get 200, and 200 has to be all of this. Well, if 200 is all of this, and I've used 130, I'm left with 70 for this. Okay. So there's the back of the worksheet. I know it's really tricky. We're going to practice this with some more simple problems, I think, next class. So I'll see you guys soon. I hope you have a good evening.